Hi, my name is Dr. Christine Thorpe, and I'm here with iHeartRadio Passage to Profit show, and I'm very excited to be promoting my forthcoming book, Living Beyond the Facade. My name is Dr. Christine Thorpe. I'm the Dean of the Nathan Weiss Graduate College at Kean University, and I'm a health educator. And in my work, I focus on health disparities among women and communities of color. And through the work that I do, I see a lot of information where we're constantly bombarded with statistics that indicate that certain groups are disproportionately living with and dying from chronic illnesses. And these groups mentioned are typically from underserved communities that are disenfranchised. And sadly, the information we receive continues to paint a bleak future for people of color. I also noticed the same theme related to personal finance, and a recent report published by Fortune magazine indicated that the median black household wealth is on a path to hit zero by 2053. And what never seems to come through these reports and statistics is how to solve the problem and not just report bad news. And within this information, there are no examples of communities or people in communities who are doing well at all. So I wanted to find examples of people who are living well with respect to health and wealth. And I wanted to understand what they do differently to fight the negative information and capture what I learned from them to give people hope. And I decided to conduct research on the health practices and retirement planning decisions of Americans of African descent, so that I could write a book to share positive advice. And I saw it was important for us to learn from those in the community who have achieved success in health and wealth without celebrity status.
Wow. So what did you find out in your book, and what are the main nuggets of advice you can share with us?
So in my book that's forthcoming called Living Beyond the Facade, there were 4 key practices that were prevalent among the people that I interviewed. Their consciousness, their mindfulness, their execution, and discipline for doing well in health and wealth. And these decisions that they made with respect to these practices shape their decisions. And in the stories that I captured, I have interviews of 2.5+ years worth of interviews of people who were so generous with their time and their information about how they made the choices related to health, their retirement decisions, their health practices, what some of their shortcomings were, how they got over some of their barriers, and what was your vision for retirement? You know, that's a really interesting question. And one of my favorite questions was, what is your vision for retirement? And they would pause and say, you know, and they got very deep and they think, I've always wanted to, and would share their story. And it was so beautiful because it came from a really deep and dreamy place for them. But in that, they said, but I need to get there, and this is what I'm doing to get there. And it was really important for me not to live like the previous generation, my family, who may have not had the means, or I've seen people in my family sick and ill from chronic illnesses, and I didn't want that. So I'm very careful about what I eat and how I take care of my body.
So I've just joined a volunteer EMT community, and EMS is a very new field. So really trying to figure out what community health kind of support that we can give. It's still very new, and they're trying a lot of new things. I'd be very interested to hear your perspective on that and how people are successfully dealing with things like chronic illness.
Well, people are working, at least for those I've interviewed for my book, they're making conscious decisions. So I would ask them, you know, what are you doing to take care of their health? And one of the requirements was you had to have a weekly regimen of exercise. What did that look like? Some people structured activities. They were going to the gym every week. Some people had a personal trainer. Some people wanted to do yoga. Some people needed something that was more sports related, that was enabling them to build community. Or one woman I interviewed said, I take long walks with my children because I work long hours every day, and it was an opportunity for me to get some exercise in and spend time with them and not feel so guilty about the time I was at work away from them. So, you know, people are trying to find ways to build it in, but they're mindful because they don't want to fall into the same traps of previous generations.
I come from this data space, right, where data is often taken at its word to be the only story. We give it privilege to say it's the objective truth, and it sounds like what you did was go behind it and find the real stories, and the data itself, just because it's data, doesn't mean it's always true or accurate.
This is a qualitative study that I took on. It is all stories, vignettes that people shared, and you can read it, and anyone can look at it and find nuggets of lessons that they can apply to their life, regardless of who's saying the information. And yes, I share a little bit of quantitative data in terms of who's participated in the study, what their academic backgrounds were, what percentage were female versus male, but quite honestly, the meat of the information comes from them telling, how did I get to where I am, and how can I give words of wisdom to someone else who's reading this and thinking, oh, I want to make a change and I can see my life through yours.
So what was your favorite story?
Goodness, there's so many different types. One gentleman had me laughing. I interviewed a gentleman who was very, very strict about his dietary practices and his savings. And he says, I come into work every day with my Whole Foods bag, and they know that this is all I'm going to eat. And I'm very careful about how much money I spend. I don't miss a beat. I'm not trying to live up to the Joneses and get the big mansion and the big car in the suburbs. I'm trying to be smart for the next generation. That's why I'm getting a divorce. And I said, oh.
What?
I didn't expect him to say that. And not that this book is supporting divorce your spouse so that you can save money. But it was...
That's taking it to an extreme.
And he was probably the most extreme person that I interviewed in what he's doing. And I presume that was because they were on two different paths and two different focuses, a different focus as it relates to life in general. But he came recommended by someone who said, yeah, you want to talk to this person. He comes from a different mindset. He'd be pretty interesting, and he really was.
In my family, I was the first one to get a college degree. And there were a lot of other things that I tried to do differently, too, to be more successful than what my previous generations had been. I think that's really important, and to spell out how people can do that.
It was really important, but what was really beautiful was how real it was and how they share the story. They don't have a celebrity entourage that's helping them do this. These are and not to say that celebrities aren't real people. These are everyday people, I'll call it that, who get up and will go to work and understand the importance of a 401k, who understand the importance of learning about money beyond just a savings account. And talking with people who said, yeah, I didn't have my first savings account until I became an adult and understand that saving is more than just putting money in the bank. I didn't understand this thing called mutual funds. What is that? Stocks, that sounds volatile. I don't know, it's not stable. And they took steps that made them see beyond what they were currently living. And hence Beyond the Facade takes us from I just want to clarify why I named it Beyond the Facade. I really wanted us to see how we currently live, how we want to live, and how we need to live.
That's great.
That is why I called it Beyond the Facade.
I'm definitely going to read that book when it comes out. So you are on Instagram, right?
Yes. So I've been promoting the research from the book and through Instagram at Living Beyond the Facade. That is where folks will receive an alert once the book goes live on Amazon.